Okay. All right, you guys ready? We're going to do this. Okay, so there's people watching online, so I'm going to start with the stuff that you guys in the room already know, because I've seen all of you guys here, but not all of you guys, but this might be new for some of you. So hi, my name's Angela Johnson. I'm the co-founder of Fabric, and let me tell you a little bit about Fabric before we get started. First of all, if I can get the remote to work, I might have to ask Phil to help me. Yeah, I think I'm going to have you cue it. Battery's dead.
No, I don't think the battery's dead.
Oh.
Try it again.
Okay, cool. All right. So Fabric stands for the Fashion and Business Resource Innovation Center. It's an acronym, and we're basically a fashion incubator. We're a nonprofit, and we help people start fashion businesses. So when somebody wants to start a fashion business, they need resources, especially outside of LA or New York. And even when you are in LA and New York, there's still a lack of guidance and education on how to be a production manager, a quality control manager, an apparel entrepreneur. There's a lot of education in how to sew and how to make patterns and stuff in design school, but they don't really teach you the stuff that you would need to know if you were going to manufacture clothing and have to contract people out. So we created this place to help entrepreneurs so that they know how to do all of those things. This is more than just that. There's a little bit of everything here. If you think of something and you ask me if we do it, 99% of the time I'm going to say yes. There's very few times that I've been like, no, we don't do that. There's so many things that we do. And if we don't physically do it here, we have a connection to somebody who does. And so we can figure it out. Or we'll create it because you asked for it. So some of those things are online and some of them are in person. Online, we have tons of resources. We have a directory where you can find fashion businesses. You can put your business in there for free. We have a calendar of events where you can find all the cool things going on in town. We've got a classifieds page. We've got all kinds of things. So this place is providing this like scaffolding for fashion businesses that are small, not the big brands, not the corporations, the big, huge corporations. We really want to support small brands and kind of reshore manufacturing here and enable more sustainable practices. So as a nonprofit, we have a mission and a vision, and our mission is people-focused to really help those apparel entrepreneurs. And then the vision is more planet-focused to just make fashion better. It's totally broken. It's very unsustainable. That's what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight before we talk about this circular exchange of textiles. But just understanding why it's broken is so important. It's mass production. The more you make of something, the cheaper it is. And us as consumers, we want cheap clothing. So we drive those prices down, and those corporations have no choice but to make things cheap. And so to make things cheap, they overproduce. Most of that ends up in the landfill. Almost all of it does. And they don't pay people ethically or fairly to be able to make that clothing in an affordable way. So the whole thing is just a broken system, and we want to help change that by supporting small brands and putting the artistry back into the hands of the artist, of the designer, and making things special again so that people will buy things, hold on to them longer, not buy so much of it, and keep them in circulation like we're going to talk about tonight. So you can be a free member here. You can also be an apparel entrepreneur going through our program. So our free membership has a lot of benefits. And so some of the things I just mentioned about what we do are some of those benefits. The directory on the website, if you're a business, you can add yourself for free. If you're not a business, go there and shop. Find local brands and buy their stuff instead of the fast fashion stuff. There's also hair, makeup, models, photographers. There's schools, there's textile companies, there's sewists, there's factories, all kinds of things in there. So the directory is one of my favorite things that we do. There's also a calendar of events. So if you're ever looking for something to do in fashion, you want to go to a fashion show, or you want to go shop at a local pop-up, or come to this, or go to a textile show, or the trade shows in the industry, I try to put all of those things on our calendar of events. So it's one place to find everything. And then we have events too. So our events are listed there, and we try to make them way more affordable and accessible for people. So stuff like this, free events. And when we do charge, it's like under $100. So you'll find a lot of things to do on there. And then the classifieds page. So if you're hiring, give me a job post. I'll put it on there for free, so you don't have to pay for a job board. And then if you're looking for a job, go there. There's always jobs being added. There's 2 that I just added a couple of days ago. So if you're looking for a job, go on there and see what's on there. All those things are found under the community page on our website. So those are some of the free things. We also do all kinds of other free things. We have like things that pop up every once in a while and that are free or that you should know about, and you'll get that in your newsletter if you're a free member. So that's how I keep everybody informed, is by sending out this newsletter. And if I know of something that is important for a fashion business or a fashion community member, somebody who loves fashion, that's where it's going to go, is in that newsletter and on our social media. So follow those. We also have our apparel entrepreneur membership. And when you are an apparel entrepreneur and you've started a business and you need that guidance to get you through how to manufacture small batches of clothing domestically, which is really challenging, and it's the stuff that you don't learn in school, that's the reason that fabric exists. And we have this roadmap that's available. So if you are an apparel entrepreneur and you want to get that guidance, then you level up your membership, and we actually offer scholarships into that as a nonprofit. We offer scholarships for minorities, females, women, veterans, people with disabilities, and if you have a financial need as well. So you don't have to pay for what you would normally pay to get that kind of education. It's cheaper than hiring a full-time employee, which is kind of what it would take to get through small batch manufacturing. If you've never done it before, you'd need an expert full-time to do that. So this gives you that alternative. And then with a scholarship, it's like hardly anything. So that's our biggest benefit to the community. And one of the things that we do every month is we do this free event. That's part of one of the benefits, one of the things that we do here. Everything we do is focused around sustainability. Like I said, we're trying to support small businesses because that's way more sustainable than the overproduction. So between this free event that we do and really focusing on sustainability, this night it is really a combination of both of those things. So this is Behind the Seams. Welcome to Behind the Seams. And it's a monthly event, the last Thursday of every month. Each month it's a different topic and a different speaker. And it's all different parts of the industry. And I bring in a different expert who tells us their journey and teaches us a little tip or trick about something. And this one is focused on sustainability because we're just coming off of Eco Fashion Week. That's one of the things we also do every year is Eco Fashion Week. So if you missed it, we had a whole full week full of amazing events and our 10th anniversary this past Saturday, which was really fun. And so this is part of that. And what I wanted to focus on this one is the importance of trying to figure out how do we create a better system for our textiles, because fashion is really one of the biggest culprits in pollution. Every human on the planet wears clothes, right? And what are there, 7 or 8 billion people now on the planet? And every one of us has closets of clothing. Like you can imagine just how much clothing is out there, right? And we're constantly buying more. We're taught to buy more. We're encouraged to buy more. The marketing's all about buying more, right? And what is this going to lead to? This is a really big problem. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. And that's why we're focusing on this. And we're really, really grateful that we have some support for this tonight too, that I'm going to explain in just a minute. So I'm going to do a lot of this talking tonight. I'm sort of the person that's running this program we're going to talk about tonight. But I'm bringing in a special guest speaker named Diana. She's going to come up in just a few minutes. She's in the audience. And she's going to tell us a little bit about what she's doing to help move this forward too, because she's an amazing person in our community that's been helping fabric with this problem for quite a while. So we're going to get started. And like I said, we just got off of Eco Fashion Week. And Eco Fashion Week's been going on for 8 years. We've been in business for 10 years. And for 8 years, what we do during Eco Fashion Week is we celebrate sustainability. We highlight different people that are doing sustainable things. We educate the community about sustainability. So we have fashion shows. We have pop-ups where you can purchase things from local designers. We have this and workshops and a clothing swap and all kinds of different things. So each year it's kind of different, but kind of the same. Those are the type of elements that are there, and there's just different featured people in it. I'm telling you this because what I'm going to talk about tonight started with the first Eco Fashion Week. And Eco Fashion Week was just an idea to really just get people's attention about what we thought was the problem in fashion. And so back I think it was 2018, we put together the first Eco Fashion Week in our original building. We had a building that was about 26,000 square feet, and we had an event venue in there. So this big event space, and we were like, oh, we could do so many things in this. So we rented it out to other people, but we also had our own events there. And so we started putting together this Eco Fashion Week within that building. And we created the same events that I'm talking about. And it was also centered around this movement that was kind of put together around the same time, a few years before that, by Fashion Revolution. So if you haven't heard of Fashion Revolution, go look it up, Google it when you're done here tonight. And it's this worldwide movement to do the same thing, to shed a light on how unsustainable the fashion industry is. There was a big fire in a factory, and that factory burned down with the people in it because it was in Rana Plaza, and basically the doors were locked because they didn't trust the employees, and all the people in the building, died because of that. And that is when a lot of people started to pay attention to how the workers are treated within the industry. And the workers in the industry are really not treated well at all. I mean, not even in the US where we have regulations and rules and things like that, but especially not in other countries where there aren't as many rules and regulations. And so that really sparked a movement. And so there was a film that was created by Fashion Revolution that many of you have probably watched, but if you haven't, go to the Fashion Revolution website and just watch the movie that's on there. And it told the story about that Rana Plaza collapse, and it kind of goes into the lives of the workers in different countries and like what they go through. And so many of them work 7 days a week. They work, around the clock. Some of them sleep next to their sewing machines. There are stories of, women who have brand new babies. The babies are laying on the floor next to them while they're sewing, or they're giving them up because they can't ever take care of them because they're at their job all day and all night and everything. I mean, there's just horrible stories, and it's a heart-wrenching, it's called The True Cost of Fashion, and it's a heart-wrenching movie to watch, but it will wake you up and make you think. And so that's really what we should be doing. So every year Fashion Revolution has this movement where they hold up these signs, and they encourage everybody all around the world to hold up these signs and say, who made my clothes? And that way, whoever did make your clothes should say, I made your clothes, and here's the factory where it's made, and these are the people that are sewing for you. And if they are transparent about it because they are treating them fairly, that's what we want to see. But if they don't answer and there's nothing going on, it's crickets and nobody knows where it's being made, that's scary, right? We should know, we should be able to know that what we're buying was made by somebody who was treated fairly. So that Fashion Revolution movement was really what we started with, and we did that same thing, who made my clothes, and we still try to do that as well, but that was really sort of the beginning of all of this. And then we were like, okay, we have to be more responsible ourselves too, because in that building, we had a factory, and the designers that we were working with could make very small batches. And that was another reason that we exist, is not only are we going to guide people into how to manufacture domestically in small batches, but let's make them for them so that they don't have to go to LA or New York. Let's try to make whatever quantities they want, 20 pieces, 100 pieces. And if you're not in the industry, that's very small. In fact, 500 pieces is very small. Most brands are making hundreds of thousands of each garment. So they design a shirt, they make hundreds of thousands of the same thing. And when you want them to make less, if you're a small brand, they don't pay attention to you. They don't want to do it because they don't make any money. They make like 1 cent on each garment. And so if you're only making 500, they're going to make $50 on your garment. That's not worth the amount of time to do it, right? So you really have to have quantity to make this worth anything. And that's why it's really hard to get started. So we thought if we could help people make 50 pieces or 100 or something like that, that's going to really help them get going. And that's a better solution than overproduction, because most of that ends up in the landfill. So we had this factory, and that's what we were doing in there. And while we're cutting, we ended up with scraps. And so all these little cast-offs would be like all over the floor or whatever, and we'd throw them away. And one day we were like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. There's a lot of scraps here, because some of these brands were growing and they were requiring stack cuts where you're layering like 100 layers of fabric on top of each other, and then you're cutting through all of them at once. And so we have big chunks of fabric that are just going in the garbage, and that's not okay. And so we said, well, let's do something with these scraps so that we're a zero waste factory. And we started figuring out things to do with it. And one of the things was, let's take them and make a backdrop out of it. And this was my silly idea. I have a lot of ideas around here, and sometimes they work out okay, and sometimes they're just silly. I personally still like this one, but everybody tells me it was just really silly. But what I thought was we could tie them to a big backdrop, and then eventually it would be like a shag carpet of scraps in lots of colors and textures. And I thought it would make like a really cool, I don't know, visual piece when you walk in, and almost like a step and repeat. You could take a photo in front of it. And then you could be part of the movement. If you walked into our building, you could grab a scrap out of the bin, you could tie it onto the wall, and you just became part of the whole movement and the statement about it. So it was a public art piece, and I thought it was really cool. So this is what it looked like, and we had some instructions in front of it. And then here's a couple of people tying. And these are actually the economic development directors from the city of Tempe that helped us make our arrangement to use that building originally, Donna Kennedy and Jill Bushbacher, and they're tying on the scraps as well. So when you came into our building, I moved you over to the scrap wall and you tied on a scrap. And then I made you pose in front of it. Bless you. Then we tried to figure out, well, how do we incorporate these scraps into other ways, into other things as well? So during Eco Fashion Week, we had an event that, by the way, that scrap wall movement was called Refabricate. So we used the word fabric in it and then, added the rest of it. I love silly puns. And so Refabricate became this movement to reuse these scraps. And then in Eco Fashion Week, we thought, okay, let's use the scraps to make clothing, and we'll put them on the runway at Eco Fashion Week, and we'll have a whole show that's called Refabricate, and we'll get the community engaged, and they can take these scraps and they can turn them into cool things, and we'll highlight them. So that's an example of what somebody made out of scraps. Isn't that really cool? Like you can see all the little pieces patched work together. And so some amazing, beautiful things came out of this. Here's some more. Here's some more. I mean, those are all just little pieces right out of that bin. There's a whole finale of those pieces. I used to love this show. I just thought it was beautiful. And then one of the members of the group her name is Astrid, and Astrid Olafson. And Astrid was a vital part of this. She was already an upcycler. And if you're not familiar with upcycling, it's taking a garment that already exists and turning it into, or multiple garments, and turning them into something else. Because if you're done with that garment, you don't want that to go in the landfill either. So being able to turn it into something else. Astrid made things out of T-shirts, which is also a business that I've run for 25 years. I have a business upcycling T-shirts into ball gowns. So Astrid and I really bonded over this. And we would share T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. And so she wanted to be part of this group. And our guest speaker tonight, Diana, also wanted to be part of this group. And we had a whole bunch of other people. And Gail, were you part of this group too, if I remember right? For a little bit, yeah. Okay, so there was multiple people that became the Refabricate group, and everybody got together, and they kind of had like a little stitch and bitch, if you know what I mean. Like, let's get together and gossip and sew and have some fun together and just bond over everything. And they would come and get the scraps and turn them into these new things, and then try to create kits and things for the community to be able to do the same thing. And then they built racks in order to have all these pieces for sale at our building. And this became this whole entire clothing collection that you could come to Fabric and you could actually purchase. In fact, I have a piece right behind me. Let me grab it so you can see. I'm trying to stay put in this one spot. So that's another piece right there made out of all of those scraps. Isn't that cool? And then we even got official, and we made tags. I don't know if this, yeah. Oh, no, this one has the designer's tag in it. But we made tags, and then we made screens that we could actually screen print. So the designer would pick up all the scraps, but they would also pick up a bunch of scraps that had Refabricate logo on it, so they could incorporate it into the garment as well. So you could see what it was that you were buying. I love this one. I saved it. I still wear it. So this became our main show at Eco Fashion Week every year. And then eventually it evolved. So about 5 years ago, I think, maybe it's been 6 now, the first denim Refabricate started. And this was because, if I remember correctly, I think we connected with Goodwill and Goodwill was interested in doing a fashion show, and they wanted to do denim upcycle thing. I can't remember if I remember this exactly, but we thought, okay, why don't we do this year a version of it using denim? And so we ended up getting so much denim from Goodwill, and then we engaged the community to all pick up these denim pieces and then turn them into new things to put on the runway. And we just kept the name Refabricate because you're still refabricating something. And then we decided to actually create a contest out of it. And we thought the winning design would win a trophy, and we would name it after Astrid. Now, Astrid had passed away right before that of cancer. And so we were really upset because, like I said, she was a vital part of our community. She was part of our fabric family. She was there all the time. She did so many cool things with us. And so this was our way to remember her, to celebrate her. So her brand was called Runs with Scissors. I just thought that was so cute. So we thought, well, we're going to give away the Runs with Scissors award every year to the winning designer. And that's what we did. So here's a picture of that event, and I would say between 35 and 40 designers usually participate in this, and they get to pick up about 4 pairs of jeans or more, depending on the year and how much we actually get. And then they can turn it into, all these new things. And then it's on the runway on the main stage at Tempe Marketplace. So we partnered with Tempe Marketplace. Actually, the first year I think was a partnership with, I can't remember. It wasn't Cox. It was, oh my gosh, it was a local brewery. Now I can't even remember for sure. But anyways, so we did this, and then we got the jeans from Goodwill. And then it just was such a hit. I mean, it was so fun to just have that huge crowd from Tempe Marketplace there, and all the designers just loved it and everything. So we decided to do that year after year. So here's some of the cool designs that came out of that. I mean, so much talent. I love these things. Okay, let me back it up. So this was it still is one of our main shows at Eco Fashion Week. And this is the reason that we're here tonight, because upcycling, reusing, trying to figure out how to keep these textiles in circulation is such an important part about sustainability in fashion. And a lot of people think sustainable fashion means a sustainable fabric, like using bamboo, even though bamboo's not that sustainable. Everybody thinks it is, but it's actually uses a lot of really serious chemicals to make it soft. So there's no perfect fabric out there. There's not one that we can say, well, we should be using this. There's some that are better than others in certain ways. Even things like upcycled or recycled polyester. Okay, we're keeping the polyester out of the landfill longer, but once you recycle it, the fiber gets broken down smaller and smaller, and now it's released into the water every time we wash it. And so we have microfibers of plastic out there because we've recycled that polyester. It's like more of it goes out into the water. So there's like no good solution about how to make your things more sustainable. The best solution, I mean, yes, you try to use better fabrics, but the best solution is making less of something and encouraging your customer to hold on to their item longer, even though that sounds counterintuitive when you're a business, because businesses try to get you to buy more things, right? They want you to think of their item as obsolete and that you need to replace it and buy another thing from them. That's what's broken here. So the smaller brands, we're going to charge more because we're making less of them. And they're going to be important pieces. They're not going to be generic, BS that doesn't fit anybody or is made poorly. They're going to be something that fits lovely and that is made by an artist and that we care about this item. And so we're going to charge more for it. And the consumer should pay more for that because we all should value clothing a lot more than we do. We just need this to start catching on. And I believe that it is. But because of that, the And I want to read you some facts so that this really sinks in and it hits home. So I looked up a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading because some of this is really shocking, but I just think everybody should hear this. Okay, globally, here's some facts globally. The world generates about 92 million tons of textile waste every year. 92 million tons. That's equivalent of a garbage truck full of clothing dumped every single second. Every second. Think about how many seconds it just took me to read that and how many garbage trucks just went into the landfill, right? That's less than 1% of clothing is recycled into new garments. So think about all of that, but 1% of it is upcycled or reused. Around 87% of textiles end up in landfills or incinerated. And the global textile production has increased 600% since 1990, which is driven by fast fashion. So it just started to get like exponentially faster and faster. So think about this, 92 million tons equals roughly the weight of 9,000 Eiffel Towers or over 180 Empire State Buildings worth of clothing thrown away every single year. That is crazy. Like our planet's big, but I mean, we're gonna run out of space like real quick. Okay, so that's globally. Now let's talk about the US. The US alone generates over 17 million tons of textile waste every year. About 66% of clothing in the US is landfilled. Less than 15% is recycled, and the rest is burned, releasing pollutants into the air. And that's enough textile waste annually to fill the Grand Canyon every few years. Oh, think about how big the Grand Canyon is. Isn't that heartbreaking? That's like a whole bunch of clothing out there, right? Okay, so we get globally, nationally, now let's think about the individual. So the per person impact. The average American throws away 112 pounds of textiles per year. That's a human body, and think how light fabric is, right? So 112 pounds of textiles per year. Globally, people generate about 11 to 13 kilograms or 24 to 29 pounds per person annually. We're buying 60% more clothing than we did in 2000, but keeping it for half as long. So we've thought of clothing now as disposable. We've totally changed our buying habits. People used to hold on to their clothing for a lifetime. They used to pass it down to generation, and that's why this is a problem. There's two things happening. We're making way more, and we're throwing it away very, very quickly. So something's got to change. Now, let's talk about the fast fashion and the big brand impact. The fashion industry produces 80 to 100 billion garments every year. What? 100 billion garments every year. Fast fashion now accounts for 60% of global clothing production. The industry generates $1 trillion worth of wasted textiles annually, $1 trillion worth, and up to 15% of fabric is wasted during production before clothes are even sold. That's a lot of like just scrap waste or stuff that gets dumped because it doesn't fit right, or they overproduced and they can't actually sell it all, so they have to burn some of it before it even goes to the store. 15% of it. So before a garment reaches the store, a portion has already become waste. Okay, so why is this bad? Well, it's pretty obvious, but let's talk about some details. Carbon emissions. The fashion industry is responsible for around 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. That's more than international flights and shipping combined. Think about all the fossil fuels that are used for flights. How many flights go over our heads every single day? And the clothing is making more waste in that area. That's insane. If nothing changes, emissions from fashion are expected to rise significantly by 2030. If fashion were a country, it would be one of the largest polluters on Earth. Now let's talk about the water and chemical pollution. The textile industry is responsible for 20% of global wastewater pollution. Dyeing and finishing fabrics are among the largest sources of water contamination. 80% of that wastewater is released untreated into the environment. So think about the countries where they're like dyeing the denim, and that just goes right into their drinking water, right into the rivers and things like that. A single cotton t-shirt can require 2,700 liters of water to produce. That's enough drinking water for one person for over 2 years for just one t-shirt. That's ridiculous. Think about that. Okay, now let's talk about microplastics and toxins. Synthetic textiles release microplastics, making up 35% of ocean microplastic pollution. 35%. That's like real close to half of it comes from this clothing issue. Around 500,000 tons of microfibers enter the ocean each year from clothing. Synthetic fabrics are essentially plastics and never biodegrade. So everything that you read on your tag that doesn't sound like it grows in nature, if it doesn't say cotton or silk or flax or something like that, if it says polyester, spandex, nylon, all those words that are chemicals, that's just plastic. So that's never going anywhere. I mean, we don't even know how long it would take if it actually could biodegrade, hundreds, if not thousands of years. So every time we wash our synthetic clothing, we're shedding plastic into our oceans. So we have an opportunity here. This has been a bunch of bummer. I'm sorry. Like I didn't mean to like really bum you guys out, but we can do something about this. That's the good part, right? That's why we do Eco Fashion Week every year. Let's like figure this out. Let's celebrate it. Let's try to shed light on it. Let's look at it in a positive way. So recycling is the way to do that. Recycling textiles. We can actually take those textiles and do something else with them. Recycling textile is great because it not only does what we want it to do, but it's going to add jobs. It creates 10 times more jobs per ton than producing new materials. So we actually can, financially benefit from this as well. Extending the life of clothing is one of the most effective ways to reduce fashion's carbon footprint. And this just isn't a waste problem, it's a design problem, and that means there's also solutions that we can create. So I just wanted to set the stage here before everybody realized why we were here and what we were doing here. There's obviously a big motivator here. I just want to live longer. I hope you guys do, and I want to live on a planet that is safe for me and for my children and for all of you. And so we all should have some skin in the game here, and everybody should think about this. So not only should we buy less stuff, we should hold on to it longer, but if you're a designer, if you've got textiles in your hands, maybe, if you're done with it, let's figure out a new home for it. If you don't have any textiles, let's figure out how to get some to you in a way that you're not buying new ones. And there's, all kinds of other things like upcycling and things like that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to focus on this exciting new program that we have here. And I want to bring up our guest speaker today, Diana, because Diana is a real big reason why we are able to do this. Let's give Diana a hand. Diana, your mic's on. Okay, there you go. And you got to hold it real close to your face is what I've found in the past. So, first of all, I'm going to put this picture up that I was going to put up because Diana, when she comes here, she actually comes and picks up scraps, and she's been doing this for years. She will come, she was part of the Refabricate program. She was probably one of the main people in that program. And then when everything stopped or, when it kind of fizzled out during COVID and stuff like that, she just kept going, and she still goes. And I'm so busy half the time I can't even remember to contact her when we have extra, but she makes sure that she contacts me regularly. This woman is like superhero of recycling textile scraps. And so she'll send me an email and she'll be like, do you have anything for me to pick up? I'll be like, oh, actually, yes. Or no, we don't have anything today or whatever. And then on top of it, I get to know where these things go because she also sends me emails that say, okay, I used it to make this today. And look at what I made here. And this is going to go here. And this is going to go here. So all these amazing updates from this woman. And not only does she do this here, but she does this kind of thing at a lot of other places. She also helps in similar ways at other places too that we're going to learn about. And then I know she does even more things that have nothing to do with fashion. She's just a great community member and volunteer type of person. And so I really wanted to highlight her and thank her for this kind of contribution as a citizen of the world and just praise you for this. I mean, it's incredible.
You're very welcome.
And this is a picture that she had sent me over one of the emails. And these are all things that she has made. And I think is this your backyard?
It's our backyard. It's a photo shoot. Erica and I did a photo shoot in October. And when I assembled all of the garments I had together to do the photo shoot, we used one model. We used a backdrop that I set up in my bedroom. And the pictures that I got out of it were just so much fun. And that's one of the reasons I'm stepping away from runway, because when you do a runway, there's all that excitement and there's the blaze and then there's a walking down the runway and everything. But I can use the photos when I'm submitting for competitions. And so that to me is a better payoff. And so Erica did a fantastic job for me. She started assembling the tops and the jackets and the pants and the jackets and the skirts. and she put together, and she styled it for me too, which is another piece that most people don't think about, because you have to really project a story of how somebody's going to use your clothing. Because if they can't imagine it, you're showing to them, something they might be doing where the garment's going to work for them. So
I love that you mentioned Erica too, because we should do a shout out for Erica. So she worked for a company called eTruism, and they would go get excess garments from like the LA fashion district, and then they would just give them away for free to people. And so there was piles and piles of these things, or sell them at like nothing, like $1, $5, things like that. So there were tons of racks of clothing at the old fabric building that you could buy like beautiful garments for $5 at our building. It was a fundraiser for us, and it was also a great way to keep those things in circulation.
Well, the other thing that Erica sold was the discarded prom dresses from Cinderella Fair.
Yes.
The beautiful dresses that didn't fit the high school prom model that the ladies of the East Valley Women's League were putting on for prom. We'd take them and we'd sell them for $5. In fact, one of the reasons I like to come back here is because we had so much fun, and Erica rented a portion of this space, and she would do classes, she would do photo shoots. We'd have parties and things like that. So this to me is a very, very, has lots and lots of really good memories in terms of all the fun we had.
Yeah, and tell them about Cinderella Fair, because you've been working with them for a really long time, and that's such an important thing too.
In 2009, I saw an advertisement. I was retired in 2000, ex-information technology, retiree 35 years. I was in computers when they started growing up in early 70s. And then, earned a lot of money through the 35 years I worked. The very last couple of years I was working as a consultant, doing QA testing and writing scripts and testing software and doing lots of levels of testing. So when I retired in 2000, I was a sewer since I've been 9. I'm currently 78. And one of the things that had happened, the very first pattern that I had, I remember when I opened it and read it, it was like somebody was talking to me. They were telling me how to do something. And if I cut this and then I did this, and they had little examples, I ended up with a wraparound skirt. And it was fabulous. And I think of myself more as a pattern maker now, because one of the things I love to do is I love to do a prototype. And one of the things I brought today was this prototype of a bedside caddy. My hospice volunteer coordinator asked me if I could make one as a sample. And she ended up getting laid off, and she brought it back to me this morning and gave it back to me. And I said, okay. So
somehow
now I
you
have
end
to
up
find
with
a
your
home.
things again.
There is a piece of wood in this piece. It's just leftover denim. The piping is actually from an upholstery shop that we cleaned out. In fact, upholstery fabrics tend to be the things I like because I can make jackets out of them. They have a little bit more body. I also like to use curtains. The shrug, while Eric and I were together, I got started on a shrug vendor, and I made shrugs, and we ended up, this is one of them. This is actually a shower curtain.
That's awesome.
And it's actually curtains that do the most fantastic shrug I made, because we had it here and we sold it here. A lady put it on, one of the clients put it on, and she says, I don't know what to do. It was the energy that she was creating from the garment. I've never seen anybody do that before. And so this is just a little model we use for Cinderella Fair is one of the 10 projects for the East Valley Women's League, which is a philanthropic organization here in Maricopa County. And they give away a prom dress. And at one point in time, they were doing shoes and jewelry and wraps and bags and underwear. And they've since moved from an office building that they were in. They're now at the Dixon Flannel Company.
Yeah.
And they use their storage area. And then there's a big area in the back by the storage that Dixon actually rents out for events. And so they bring all the dresses out, and they have 2 giveaway days a year. And then you can also schedule smaller groups like special needs people to come in and find a dress. And then we offer the alterations that go with the dress. And for a couple of years, we couldn't do alterations because we were in transit from one facility to another. But Cinderella Fair in 2009, I saw an advertisement that they were looking for people to volunteer. So I went down to the Pile Center here in Tempe, which is where they held it then, and met these wonderful ladies at the Tempe Needle Wielders who take in donated materials, donated fabrics, and make a variety of products for different places in the community. They do lap robes, they do adult bibs, they crochet and knit hats, they do anything and everything. And so I was with them for 6 years. And one of the things that happened was I got to make a lot of products. Somebody would come in with a requirement. Oh, we need such and such so-and-so. And for me, it didn't matter whether it was one person or 100 people. If I could work on the prototype and I could get the refine the product down, it was just so much fun. We did a market bag for for the Papa School. I think we ended up doing 12 prototypes before we finally got the final size. This was a bag for kids to take groceries home on the weekend, so they would have food to eat. And it ended up being big, but we ended up doing some really nice straps around them so it would hold the weight. And we used donated fabrics, donated zippers, and we did 120 of them out of the needle wielders. And I know the ladies didn't think that they could get that high, but they did, because it was just, we pieced out the production. And so it was just an awful lot of fun. And so I've since then added TCH. I've done some special work for.
That's the Centers for Habilitation.
Because they used to sew the bags when you were in the old building. Seeds for Autism is another group that has a sewing group. And so if I find stuff, if I find scraps that I think they can use, I'll offer that to them, because then it gets, especially if I know what kind of a product they're producing, and I know what kind of fabrics they might need, or what kind of notions they might need, or can you use this? There was the, when you guys shut down the old building, there was the map of the world, which was a vinyl version of it. It ended up at Seeds for Autism shading their back patio.
We had a vinyl map of the world?
We had a vinyl map of the world, and there was one section cut out of it because somebody had made a bag from it.
Oh my gosh.
But yes. And then there was all the vinyl left over from the city of Tempe, because they had done directional signs for a lot of their events that they were putting on. So there was a lot of that kind of vinyl, and we took it down to ARC, the Art Resources Center, which is another place I'd point you to if you're looking for free resources. If you're a maker or an artist, if you're a teacher or a student. There's a whole bunch of stuff, especially fabrics, notions, sewing tools.
Paintbrushes.
They have some sewing machines, and they're incredibly cheap. And so anything that you want, you can find there. It's on Hohokam, south of University. It's just east of the 143.
You just make a donation and you can take whatever you want.
Saturday and Wednesday, and on Wednesday they're open till 5. On Saturday they're open till 3. It's well worth going by and seeing, just taking a look and seeing what they collect and what you can get, because most of the stuff is free, and then there is some stuff that they ask you to make a donation for, whatever you think it's worth to you. But a lot of these fabrics, let's see which ones. This one I got. This was my toile for the garment this year. I got these fabrics out of ARC.
Nice.
What's the name of the organization?
The Art Resources Center. Now, we were talking about our dear Astrid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you give me your telephone number, I'm happy to send you the contact too. Astrid, dear friend Astrid, I was with her when she bought these fabrics. She bought them at the International Mart on McClintock, just south of Apache. Miss Florence sells African wax prints, and they're $35 for 6 yards, which is a smoking deal. And her stuff is real; it's the real stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, Astrid also had a fondness for African music, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. Those are some of her favorite vibes.
Yeah, she made cool stuff.
And when I helped take her estate apart, I kept all the African wax prints off to one side. I donated some to Charlotte, okay, because I also found the black and white jacket that Astrid had purchased to go with a black and white print that she had. And so I never did hear what happened to it, but I'd like to find out. Now, I brought this along
Oh, that's the, okay. Okay, so the refabricate backdrop, the scrap backdrop that we were talking about, when we moved, we had nowhere to use it anymore. We moved into here. So we gave it to Diana. Can you repurpose this? And she's tried to figure out all kinds of things to do with all of it.
It had
This is part of
slits
it.
in it. It had slits in it every inch. Okay. And so
Yeah.
I gave it to a lady who does cutting for me. Because if I say, in fact, I brought another piece I wanted to share with you. If it might have dropped. Where did it go? I think I might have dropped it. It's a little black mask. I got it from ARC. It's cut out in the shape of a mask, and I figured out how I can cut it into a 6 1/4 inch square and either make hearts. I know they're black hearts, but I can decorate the edges. Or a checkerboard, a portable checkerboard.
Oh, cool. I love how creative you are with all these scraps. It's really
So
cool.
my cutting ladies cut the strips, cut those big denim pieces in the back into long strips for me. I washed them without controlling them, and so I spent a fair amount of time winding them up into rolls, and so I now have them, and this was my sample. I was hoping to make a jacket for this year's show
That would be cool.
and didn't get it, but I think it needs to be smaller squares. That's one of my critiques on this particular piece.
But you could do some cool stuff with this. I mean, it could
Oh,
just be
God,
like a big shrug, or something like that.
I
too.
thought about just doing a long scarf
Yeah.
and all sorts of other things, so a lot of things went through my mind.
Yeah.
But this,
Yes, that would be a cool vest. For sure.
it does, but there's a bomber jacket I wanted to make it into.
Oh, that would be cool too.
Puff and Pencil has a bomber jacket that I did that out of Dentex.
Okay, wait, I'm going to grab that because then the people on the video can see this too because she made this. So Dintex, let me get on the mic.
Sure. So during the pandemic and through the PPE production, they ended up with some medical grade fabric that they also printed. I also ended up picking up all of the off prints when they were setting up the printer to check on the color distribution. And that,
This fabric is really good. It's really printable, and so this was the leftover, like she said, the medical material. And when we had our printer, we would have to run a print really regularly to keep the print heads wet. And so there was a lot of just like testing color and things like that. So she was able to use this to recreate this. But there's also you'll see some pieces in here because we tried to reuse all that medical material. There was about 26,000
I would
yards
guess
left
it's
over.
some of your sign right
Yeah,
back
all of our
there is-
signage. During the pandemic, when everybody stopped buying our medical gowns, they were buying the disposable ones again. So we got stuck with like 26,000 yards of this. So we make our business cards, our tablecloths, flyers, like all kinds of stuff, even invites to our fashion shows. Everything that should be on paper is on this fabric. And so we have tons of leftover, little things like invites to fashion shows. And so different community members have made things. In fact, pillows over on those chairs are made out of the invites from somebody else. And so I thought this was a really cool
I have
jacket.
rolls of this stuff, so if anybody wants to play with it, I'm happy to share.
Yes, so do I.
Now, I've separated it into the white stuff because there's actually a product I make for the banner NICU. They had the snakes that are filled with the beads, and they needed a recover. And so we used that fabric, and that fabric was fabulous. So I separated out just the white, plain white stuff in the long strips, and so I have that so that I can recover snakes and things like that. But yeah, I have tons of this stuff.
It's 3-ply, and it's waterproof and breathable and antimicrobial. I mean, it had to pass FDA certification for us to be able to use it. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's what Patagonia uses for jackets, for outerwear. So
if you look at
really
it,
cool.
it has a woven texture on the outside. Now, I should have brought some of the GPEC pads because when you did your zero waste bag, what happened was you printed them, and some of the people who were sewing for you were not following the directions. And so we ended up with a whole bunch of half-sewn bags or bags that were cut wrong because they cut off the handle.
Oh my God.
And so I ended up sewing them together and putting a little bit of padding between them and making wheelchair pads for them. And I bind the sides and I give them away to my doctor's office. So my doctor's office usually hands those out for
So
me.
the creativity in coming up with products is really cool here. And I've put in a bunch of photos that I want to go through of her stuff because she texts me or she emails me whenever she makes something. She hasn't even seen what I put together here. So she doesn't even know what pictures are coming up. So I want to show some of these, and I copied some of the words too, like from her email, so you could see like, oh, I use this here or there. And then she's got some pieces here. Do you mind if we go through and talk about it?
Go right ahead.
So
Those are the doggy beds. We use some of that Dentex fabric to make doggy beds. There's a group, a sewing group out of Sun Lakes called the Sew and Sews, and one of their projects is the pads for paws. So once a month they get together and they sew these covers, and then they stuff them with a blend of chopped up scraps and batting, and it's a fabulous group. They do 50 to 55 pads every month. And there is more demand than there is production. Every single pad gets given to a rescue group or a group that handles and helps animals. So
that's amazing. Oh, and by the way, those are our invites for one of our fashion shows.
that's right. And that's Erica's dog on the right. That's Rogue.
Oh. Okay. What's
This
that?
this is a mint holder, would you believe, for the hospice group. It's a mint holder, so there are little circle bags with 3 mints on each side, and I used a toilet paper roll from ARC, and the orange paper is from ARC, and I printed off the little sign that says "From our hearts to your hearts," and then I put a little bit of garland in each of these, and so that was a lot of fun because we put it together, and the volunteer coordinator who was helping us from American Premier Hospice, who got laid off, was also giving us the feedback. One of the things I find, and one of the reasons we've stuck with her through several jobs, is that she works with us. She gives us a heads up several months ahead of time so we know when we need to deliver and what we're trying to do. We can do prototypes for her. We can do samples, and she can tell us what she likes or what she doesn't like. Now, unfortunately, I can't get her to give me the colors she wants until we're kind of into the process. Because if there's a specific color, then I have to go purchase that. That's one of the problems, and they have to agree that they'll pay for it. So that's really, or if I can find it, I'm good. But that's part of it.
Okay, this one.
You might want to mention
Yeah.
your adventures with the fins.
Oh,
And also the artist in Valley that you were exchanging T-shirts with.
yeah.
You were sending blanks. And
I
you
was
were
sending.
painted T-shirts.
I was sending him white cotton hoodies, and getting it through the mail was an adventure. He had to really ransom it out of the mail to get them so he could dye them. And he's a fabulous artist, and he does fabulous things. And I happened to run into him because an artist who appeared here at the Tempe Festival of the Arts, Simpatico Clothing, who does only tinsel clothing, the small brand. She manufactures out of Washington. Her daughter was here at Tempe, and my sister had purchased clothing from her. And so her daughter was in Indonesia, and she was connected to this batik artist trying to get him more coverage, more exposure. And that's how we ended up. I bought several T-shirts from him. I offered him the 4 hoodies. He took them. He didn't know what was happening. And I said, you do with them whatever you want. And he made these fabulous hoodies. He dyed them and did these fabulous things. And so the Fins that he talks about is a magazine called Taco, and they do designs. And I've actually submitted several designs from. I do their pattern testing thing, their make and share community, where you get a pattern early, you get to make it, and then you'll share it on the day of publication. So what they're looking for is the pictures of your made item. But there's still a lot of fun. Because I get to see designs coming in, and the pattern maker is German, and so she has a particular bend in terms of her instructions, okay, and what she's telling you, and often you just have to follow in blind faith, going down each line, and when you get to it, you go, oh yeah, now I see what she was trying to tell me. But it's been a lot of fun, so I have a lot of fun with that. But yeah, this is the Hoffman Challenge. Hoffman does a batik challenge every year. This is the Amethyst Challenge. I submitted the sun hat and a little purse to them in addition to a jacket that I made using the pattern. There's the jacket.
That's cute.
And so I had to pick 5 of the 15 fabrics. I purchased 1/8 of a yard of each one, which I thought was 1/4 of a yard, so I made my block to a 9-inch block. And I ended up with a little bit more PC quilting stuff, because I've done quilting before. So the interesting thing with this piece was it looks so good on the mannequin. It still needs some adjustment on a body. When I finally put it on a body, the belt does not sit quite where it should sit. And the belt I got from Cinderella Fair. It was a discarded belt in their belt bin. So the lady who I did this jacket for just contacted me yesterday and asked me about it. And I hadn't heard from her. She's a fire eater.
Oh, cool.
So if you need something spectacular for one of your events,
Oh, yeah.
I could line her up for you.
All right. All right.
But yeah, it was a jacket she had, and this is also the scraps I picked up from Mark. I made the pattern. It's got 7 panels, and each one of them is different. There's a swirl that comes around the body and goes up. And I still haven't quite figured out what's going on here in the sleeve. I'm happy with it. It'll make a jacket, but it doesn't go together quite. You know, when a pattern works, it fits. Mm-hmm. You can make it again. You can cut it again, and you know you can sew it. Okay, well, I'm not quite at that stage with this pattern, but it's a fabulous pattern. You have to be a tall, thin person, though. The model standing next to Astrid in your picture, Corrine, that's her jacket.
Oh, that's cool.
And she just contacted me yesterday about, did I still have it? And I said, yes, I do.
That's awesome.
There is my friend Stephanie. And you see that belt again. That's from the Cinderella Fair belt bin. The hearts are the 2 6¼ inch squares that I sew into. We did heart ornaments for the hospice group last year. I think I ended up doing 120 of them. And so that's 1/2 of a bandana. And those were the first 2 to be picked. When the hospice group had picked all the ones they wanted, and there were some left over, and these didn't quite match the color scheme they had going, those were the first 2 that were picked. So when I find 1/2 of a bandana at ARC, there's enough in there to make piping, which is what this scrap would give me. It will give me 2 yards of piping. So when you look at a scrap, you have to think of it in terms of where its destination is, and this one ended up on this fabric. Because I love the combination. So when I see a combination that has some energy to it, or it excites my eye, I'm going, yeah, I'm going to make a jacket out of this, and I'll use the piping in the edges.
Anybody else would look at that and be like, oh, toss that. It's not big enough to do anything with.
And that's true, but it's the color that always gets me.
That's what I love about this. And look, there's her comment. Back from my travels and found out my jacket was accepted into the GPEC art show. Just wanted to share the great news. P.S. Same pattern, orange and black. Did receive an honorable mention in the Tucson Art Show.
Yes,
I get to hear all these fun little things when she sends this to me. That's awesome.
And that orange jacket is now in London with the pants that I had originally made out of those.
Oh, wow.
For my daughter.
That's
so
cool. In London? What's it in London for?
That's where she lives,
Oh.
unfortunately.
Good. Well, bad for you, but good for the garment. It gets to be in London.
When they first announced it, they had misspelled my name, so I didn't know if I had won. I saw Diana. I didn't think there was another Diana out there that spelled the first name with two N's, but I couldn't see the last name, and I was afraid to go out and yell to my family that, I got an honorable mention, until they sent me this, and I knew that it was me. I didn't think anybody else would call it African Wax Print Artist Jacket 2.
Oh, my gosh.
But, you have to wait. And I'm on that Hoffman Challenge. They've asked me for a personal judging, so I've shipped it off to California. I don't know if it's going to tour around the United States. So the jacket, the sun hat, and the purse, I don't know which one made it into the final judging. And I haven't heard. I keep waiting. I'm thinking that at the end of the month, tomorrow, they might send it out and say, you're in, you're not in. So I got to keep both. I got to keep my feet in both places. Yeah, it may not be accepted, But I feel just honored to have it
That's amazing.
judged in person.
Okay, this one was to say, I just started cutting on the roll of green muslin, slicing it into animal bedding covers for the ladies at Sun Lakes. Also used it for prototype on a kick-ass vest. Photo attached. I'm pretty pleased with it so far, but I do have a few maybe ideas for the next iteration. I have a few ideas for the next iteration.
Yeah, I just cut one of these yesterday from the leftover fabrics from the Eco Fashion Show, okay? Because I finally mailed the vest to my daughter. It had gone down to the Tucson show. I'd made it for my daughter. I produced the pattern, I made it for my daughter, and I was going to send it off to have her try it on. And I submitted it for the Tucson show. I submitted 12 pieces, and they accepted 6.
Oh, cool.
I just happen to have this accumulation of stuff.
Is this from that same?
That's the
Okay.
kick-ass vest. Yeah, that's the one that got sent.
The kick-ass vest.
And it was Stephanie who gave it the title.
Oh, that's
She said,
cool.
"Oh yeah, this is kick-ass." And what happens is the hood falls down across the shoulders, and so it becomes a bit of a shrug
Oh, cool.
for inside. But you can also pull it while you have that under a coat, and still have a hood.
Love it.
So, yeah. And there's one of your off prints.
Okay, so these are, the prints that we test on, just both of these are from that.
Yeah, and they're all the cowl shirt. There's a cowl shirt I did for my niece in Houston, and I love it because it has just a little bit of a cap sleeve.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's one of your print registrations.
I could tell you what this is. So this is one of our brands. I'm not going to mention her name in case she doesn't want it, but she designed this ombre print, and it was an engineered print, which means you print the pattern piece onto the fabric. So you print the shape of the sleeve or the shape of the front or the shape of the back, and then you embed your artwork right into it so that you don't take the pattern and place it onto the fabric and cut it out and hope the artwork lands where it lands. You actually just print the artwork right into the pattern. So that's what we did, was we printed out her pattern pieces with her artwork on it. And then I think something happened with the print, like it just...
You were off on one color, and
Yeah.
it was by a hair. You had to reprint 45 yards. I remember you looking at each other, you and
just
Sherry looking at
barely,
each other, going reprint.
So what do we do with all these, And you could see it, like this is where we would normally cut the shape of the pattern. Like there's the bottom of it or something, and there's the top of the next piece or whatever. So then she was able to just take that yardage and just make something else out of it, which is great because
Yeah, we called it the pink shoot. I did 6 of these cowl shirts, tops, and we had 2 models and then 2 models, because the first time I had ever had to interact with a model or fit a model or sew to a model was with you guys. I'm used to sewing garments, and I take a measurement, I can make it that big. What I'm sewing it to an as yet identified model, because some of the garments I made for the first show that I did extra large, and now I had to go find an extra large model.
Right.
And so, and when I did I've changed my relationship to models. My first models, I gave them a gift. I gave them a little bag, a little book bag that I make as a gift, as a thank you, because they were doing it for free.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was with Erica, and I had all the free models, and I've come to realize that I really do need to treat them like the adult human beings that they are, and I need to pay them for their skills, because it is a skill to stand up in front of a camera and hold a pose or go back to a pose.
and look good doing it.
Or create a
anybody can
pose.
stand there and hold a pose, but
Yes.
just know where to stand and how to make yourself look
And
right.
that was the first time I brought a shrug and I gave it to a model, and I saw them playing with the shrug in front of the mirror, and it's like model candy. Okay, they couldn't not look at themselves. Okay, because
Cute. Oh, whoops.
so
That's all
yeah,
pictures.
so and then the blue one is just scraps from someplace else. It's also in the same cowl pattern. So
That's awesome. All right, is there anything else on that rack that we haven't seen?
you haven't seen the. This was actually for. Remember, you were supposed to do a G&G. You were supposed to do a G&G thing for TCH,
Oh yes, a Goodwill or
Gala,
a
and
gala. Yeah.
something in Gala. And I made this jacket for the lady I had picked
Yeah.
because I
That
got
was right before COVID.
yes, because I
And it
got to
couldn't
know
happen.
her and wanted to make something for her. I'd made her a hoodie, and then I had this rather heavy fabric from an upholstery shop because that's a string between 2 layers of fabric. It's incredibly warm. And then the belt is, of course, one of the Cinderella Fair belts. And I only had enough for a half a sleeve. Mm-hmm. And so it sat halfway for a while. Since then, I've realized I probably should have used fur because I do have some artificial fur that would work well with this. But it's when a fabric catches your eye, you know, that's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for some energy being generated, and then figuring out how to use it and what else to put with it. And then awesome. I have to find who owns it because when I brought the jacket here for Angela, she says, "Oh, who's the owner for this?" And I said, "They haven't identified themselves yet." Because generally I can't separate the person for who it belongs to. So, and because I only usually make one, that's it.
Well, that's really cool. We saw everything else on there, right? Did you happen to bring the little kits that you made?
Oh, the sewing kits?
Yeah.
There are 2 kits we're working on. One is the sewing kit. It's part of the Cinderella Fair. I put together a sewing kit so I could give it to the girls and the girls' families to do repairs. And it's a curated kit because it has a Band-Aid in it, and it has a pencil in it, and it has a little pair of snips. It has 2 bobbins, one with white and one with black thread. It has 2 threaded needles, and it has 10 pins. Okay, and this kit has carried me around the world. So I have some left over from Cinderella Fair. I have to pull the bin down and figure out how many I have left, and I was going to give them to Angela so we could include them as part of this Sew-cular program, so that if somebody came in and liked the fabric, we could hand them a sewing kit. And I have sewed garments by hand entirely. Okay, just because I was in a place where I didn't have electricity, or didn't have a sewing machine. So I have a lot of faith in my hand stitching, and I do love to do it. This jacket, I upped my game, and I started paying attention to the insides. Okay, and so it's a better garment, and I can tell the difference between hand stitching and machine stitching because machine tends to push everything together. And I say trying to get something in a 1/2 inch by 1 inch thing underneath a presser foot is too hard. I can hand stitching. I put my zippers in for Cinderella Fair by hand because usually it's a beaded or a sequined fabric, and I can put the stitch exactly where I want it, and I'm not pushing it under a throat plate or on top of a throat plate and underneath a presser foot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I just love that you put those kits together. That just speaks to who you are, how detailed and meticulous and careful and thoughtful and everything. So, I appreciate you and everything that you've done for helping us rehome these things and all the care you've put into that too. So I want to thank you one more time. Let's give her a round of applause.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I recognize that you needed to have been emptied.
Oh no, I emptied it so that everybody could see the fabric.
When you were in the old building.
Yeah. We needed to keep that thing emptied because it kept getting filled up. I appreciate it.
Here we go.
Yeah, you can just put that right there. Thank you, Diana. So you can see the motivation here. Like, let's keep what she's doing going, and so I was like, okay, how do we do this? Because now we've moved over here. Now it's me running this whole place. I'm the only employee of fabric now. We used to, at one point, we had like 100 employees with all the, sewing of the medical gowns and things like that. So things have changed a lot over here. This is a lot easier to manage, but it's one person doing everything. So I'm like, I want to keep this going. So how do I do this in a way that I can still do this? And we need some funding for this. I've got to have some kind of money to buy like bins and to buy organizational tools and ways to organize this and to actually create the marketing for it so people know that this exists and stuff, and so that it can kind of run itself. And so I applied for a grant through Circular Arizona, and got a little grant to be able to support this. Yay! And came up with this fun pun, because I love the puns. So it's a circular textile exchange. So it's the Sew-cular Exchange. And basically the way that this is going to run is it's going to be a free thing. And it's just you drop off what you don't want anymore and you come pick up whatever you want. In fact, if you want to take the whole bin, you can. Like, it's literally that free for all. And that's how it really should be. There should be no barriers into, rehoming these things, because we really got to get them into the hands of whoever needs them. So, I got to accept the award in front of the audience at the grant thing, and basically that was really cool. Everybody in the audience there are significant people in the sustainability, arena here in Arizona, from all kinds of different organizations, and so to be able to be one of the two people that got this grant was really exciting. And then we just started doing it. So we're right in the middle of still executing the whole thing, but we just launched this program last week at Eco Fashion Week. We launched it at the clothing swap. So we had a clothing swap where people could come and you pay $10, you come in and you drop off your old clothes, and then you leave with whatever you want, with bags of clothes. That was anything for it. So if you came just for the textile, like about a month or two before that. And so I was kind of spreading the word, and we had a pretty good donation, good amount of stuff donated. And it was, I would like to actually talk about this too. This is another meaningful thing. So we had an employee, like a contractor basically with us for a little while, and her name is Stephanie Saucedo. And here's the clothing swap, first of all. And there's Hiroko volunteering at the clothing swap. And what she's doing is weighing the fabrics and then writing down the weight and estimating the yardage, because we're going to report at the end of the grant, like how much has gone, not the end, but at a reporting time, how much has gone in and out, basically. So that's part of it. But the bin was seeded by Stephanie Saucedo, who was one of our contractors, and Stephanie passed away. So we were really sad that Stephanie wasn't with us anymore, but it was really meaningful that, her mother thought of us and was like, I have all of Stephanie's stuff, and this is the first place I thought I should check to figure out, what do I do with her items? I was like, this is perfect timing here, because this is this program that we're just starting, and if you would like to seed the bin, we'd be happy to take this stuff and find a special home for it. So a lot of the scraps that were in the bin in the beginning were from her, and I, okay, hold on, I didn't put it in here. I brought her program from her celebration of life. So I just want to pass it around so you could see Stephanie's face and really appreciate her and the impact that she's had to even get this program started. But a lot of her fabrics have already come and gone. So that's great. They've already got new homes, because a lot of people came to this, and so many of those things have left, and so many more have already come. I had somebody drop a whole bunch of stuff off even today. She drove in from North Scottsdale and said, here's all these things that I need to rehome. And there's beautiful fabrics in there. There's 5 yards of this 100% wool fabric that's in there, a few different types of wool, and nice colors like basics like gray and black and things like that I think are going to be really easy to use and make pants and jackets and stuff like that. So you never know what's going to end up in this bin, but the idea is very simple. You just come, drop it off, and you just leave with what you want. And if you're interested in being part of this just as a volunteer, you can come and help me with this. What I'm going to do is, and I've just been doing it myself so far, but as this picks up, the bin is going to get fuller. There's going to be a separate bin that gets full when people drop stuff off, but it needs to be weighed and it needs to be measured, and then it needs to be wrapped up or folded. Right now it's just being wrapped up in rubber band and put into this bin so people could just dig through it. But that's going to start getting really full, and we're going to have to get racks where we can fold the fabrics, and then we're going to get bolts of fabrics, and so we're going to put those in places too. So I just need people to come every once in a while, maybe weekly or something, and take what's in the bin and weigh it and document it and put it away where it needs to go. It's really simple. As we grow out of this space, then the next thing is going to be expanding into other spaces. And so I'm looking for other spaces where there's a place inside of a business or something that maybe just has an extra room. I was talking to a thrift store recently who has this loft space that they aren't using. So something like that where we can actually have that. And then volunteers would be needed just to run that space at certain hours every week. Maybe it's 3 hours on certain days of the week or whatever that it's open, and people could come and do that. So And any other ideas as a volunteer, if you have an idea of like how we can expand this, how we can get the word out, or if you have skills in some way that we could use for this, that's what we're looking for right now. Right now, we can only take 1 yard or more because I don't have the bandwidth or the space to do much with, all the little scraps and stuff like that. However, I wanted to show you that when we do have little scraps, I still do what I can with the ones that we have, the ones that we produce. I don't want to take other people's right now until we know that we can. But whenever I do things for like the city of Tempe or schools or anything with children or the Phoenix Art Museum or whatever, when we do like little workshops and stuff, I always do this fun project where the kids or the participants get to take fashion illustrations that are just not wearing anything and then cover them in the little scraps and make outfits like this. And so these scraps go to stuff like that. Here's another example. And these are ones that just community members did. Like, isn't that cute? Some little 5-year-old did this one. So there's a big bucket of these scraps in there too. So we're always trying to figure out all the things that we can possibly do to continue this. And so tonight I have taken all the scraps and put them on the cutting table. You guys take as much as you want. Again, if you want to take all of it, that would be amazing because then I have an empty bucket to start over again. So don't be shy. Don't be like, oh, can I take this? Or maybe I should only take 3 of them or whatever. Literally take as much as you want. The more you take, the better. So drop stuff off, pick it up. We're here during business hours. It's usually 10 to 5, Monday through Thursday. But make sure you make an appointment and let me know because it's by appointment. So if I'm not here for whatever reason, I don't want you to drive all the way down here. So just let me know you're coming. Click contact on our website. That'll go to me and tell me you're dropping stuff off. And then if you want to be a volunteer, let me know too. And then to wrap this up, another thing that we did at Eco Fashion Week that we're going to keep doing is giving all of the participants and designers and attendees the opportunity to eliminate their carbon footprint as a participant in the event or as a brand. And so we partnered with EcoStance and they offer carbon offsets. And what that means is, let's say you spent a lot of gas to get to the event or whatever. You can actually offset that use of that gas by purchasing a carbon offset. And this is literally like $5 or less. It's not very much money at all. And that money goes to planting trees and other carbon positive type of things. So you're offsetting, whatever carbons you're actually emitting. And as a brand, you can actually get a seal like this. So if you have your own brand and you want to put this on your website, your social media, and you want to go out there and say, I am a carbon neutral brand. I neutralize all of the emissions that I create. It's very quick. It's very easy. And you'll get this badge to put on your website and everything. And so brands that come through Fabric, you get a break. It's actually free for up to a certain amount of brands. So get on it right now. So if you want to scan those codes, that's how you get involved. The first one is for the brand. The second one is if you want to offset your carbon emissions from the Eco Fashion Week. It's not too late. You can still actually do that. And then this is also on our website. There's an EcoStance page under the our services, under our services. So you'll see these same QR codes there if you miss it tonight. All right. Well, one more fun little thing. This is another little fun thing that Diana made. I just thought this was so cute. Yes.
Ball that has glorious hair to it.
I love it. Actually, that guy right there is cutting the serapes. He's our cutter. And the serapes are for the ASU graduates. They wear them around their neck.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You told me about that.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you so much for coming. We're going to wrap this up, and I want you to help yourself to the fabrics on the table. And then please join us again last Thursday of the month for the next Behind the Seams. Please keep coming to this. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much.